Rain to the finishing touch as the United States beats Trinidad and Tobago 3-0 in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
In the first leg.
So impressive attacking numbers there, Shaka from Trinidad and Tobago.
Nations League quarterfinal. Shaka, we'll get your thoughts on this game in just a second. For more on this, thrilled to welcome into the show a man who was part of 4 World Cup teams for the United States, goalie Kasey Keller. Kasey, what did you make of the U.S. performance last night in Texas?
Well, I think first and foremost, you look at it and you say they got the job done in the end. Now, was it the way that Greg Berhalter kind of probably typed it up beforehand to think that it was going to go to that level with 10 men as playing against 10 men as well, that it wasn't as clean as they would have liked? I really thought that the first half was pretty slow and predictable from the U.S. I think one thing we saw throughout Greg's tenure was, how aggressive they were in the attack, particularly against teams that they felt that they were much better than. We didn't see that in the first half. It was really kind of slow and predictable. They weren't direct. They were waiting for that perfect pass. And give Trinidad a ton of credit. They dropped into spaces. They made things very difficult for the U.S. to find that perfect pass. So then what do you need to do at times? If plan 1 isn't working, adjust, go to plan 2, be more direct, be more aggressive. I thought the one thing that surprised me was the U.S. were very possession-based in that first half. And it wasn't working. They weren't creating the chances. They weren't creating the opportunities. Look, I understand if you don't have a lot of possession, that you don't want to take risks and give the ball back to your opponent. You were getting the ball back 10 seconds after Trinidad had it. So there was no reason to be so conservative in possession because you were going to get the ball back. And I think adjustments were made in the second half, and then obviously the subs came in. I think that Tillman and Paredes, it just didn't quite work. And then when Aronson came in along with Pepe, you saw a difference. And I think give the coaching staff, give the players some credit that they made adjustments and they got the cushion.
Shaka, if Trinidad and Tobago aren't reduced to 10 men, you think the U.S. wins this game?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So why did it take so long to break them down from an American perspective?
Listen, I think from the get-go, Trinidad and Tobago, Angus Eve had this team set up to get a 0-0. Played a 5-4-1, a back 5. You're hoping to get some, or you would assume, attacking width from your wing-backs, but they never really advance. You have a very narrow midfield 4 that allowed Robinson and Dest. Robinson and Dest, their starting position was about 10, 15 yards outside the Trinidad and Tobago box. And this is as wing backs. That was their starting position. And then one up top, and albeit Powder gets sent off in the 37th minute, and Angus Eve in his post-game post-game interview was saying that the plan was to try to keep things tight in the second half, introduce Nathaniel James, Gill, Levi Garcia. There was a discussion with his club, AEK Athens, that he would only play the last half an hour, and then Trinidad and Tobago would start to maybe look for the counter-attack at that point. And, well, obviously, Powder's sending off changes all of that. But up until that point, I was sitting looking at this game thinking, well, the old cliche 20, 25 minutes would be very pragmatic, very conservative, and then you'll see a little bit more of us coming out. And we didn't. So to your question, Sebi, there was never really any suggestion that this was a Trinidad and Tobago team that knew how they were going to build a counterattack up against this U.S. team. And I guess the sending off kind of made the excuses a little bit easier.
Ala, there's a lot of angst after this game among the American fan base. What's the biggest worry from the U.S. side of things?
That recognizing full well that Trinidad and Tobago were never going to score and were never goal dangerous and a goal threat, that the United States were not more willing to take risks going forward. And it's not just by committing numbers forward, it's by going off script. There are going to be moments in which the United States is going to have to break teams down in CONCACAF, and this was one of those moments. And so now the onus is on the players to be able to use isolation play, use 1v1 situations, be able to beat a defender so that you can create space for yourself. That it isn't just about the slow passing game around the Trinidad and Tobago defense, but never through the Trinidad and Tobago defense. And that's what I thought that it was, and I think Kasey alluded to it, it was very predictable in the first half and some of it in the second half as well, in that you didn't get enough players that are willing to get the ball and do something different, something creative, something dynamic, something that takes this team to a different level. And of all the players out on the field, I think the one player that is naturally capable of doing this more than others, at least from what we saw yesterday, is Gio Reyna. And while I think that he's still that difference maker, there were too many times in which he settled for the sideways and backwards pass because it was all too easy. I think these are the moments in which Gio Reyna has to take the responsibility of being that guy.
I'll also say I thought there were a couple of poor performances from the US. I thought Balogun was poor. I thought Tillman, his finishing was desperately poor. And so you start to question maybe the depth of the US squad. Ricardo Pepi comes in and really makes a difference. But for that starting 11, and I'm not one to comment on how deep this US squad is or what Berhalter is going to go with. At times, I was expecting better from some of those names that just didn't deliver on the night.
Ale, it's a really good point you bring up. You need Gio Reyna to be productive when you don't have Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah. Kasey, what did you think of Reyna's performance on the night against Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ollie. I think there was a big piece of it, too, though, and I made some notes about it while I was watching the game, was there was times when Gio got the ball in a little bit of a deeper position, and then if the camera had a little bit more of a wide angle, I thought the upfront runs were so static, particularly against a defense that was packed in. So you know the space wasn't naturally going to be there. So what do you need to do? You need to always be moving, getting in front of a defender, maybe even being that unselfishness in making a run to pull a defender out of space so another player can run in. And I think there was times when the group up front, and particularly before those subs came on, that everyone was just standing around going, okay, is he going to pass me the ball? No, you run, and if you don't get it, then somebody else will follow up that space. So I thought there was some question marks on, kind of the movement in that front line particularly, and it just, I guess in the end, there just wasn't enough movement. And eventually the subs came in. You saw that the opening goal was the prime example. Because what did Pepi do? He made a strong run in front of the defender. He didn't stand behind the defender and expect the ball to get to him. I'm going to run in front of the space, and if the ball gets there, then I'm going to win it. And guess what? If I run in front of this space and I pull the defender 2 yards out of that central spot, then I think if you actually see the video, I think Balogun is coming in behind in case it goes through. And I think that was the difference in why the U.S. finally got the goals.
He wasn't going through a good time and he wasn't scoring goals. All I know is Ricardo Pepi puts on this jersey, comes off the bench, and always seems to have an impact on the game. That is something that I don't think you can manufacture. You have to have a feel for the moment and a feel for the situation. Ricardo Pepi with the national team seems to have a feel for the moment. Scores a really good goal yesterday.
Shaka, any hope for a Trinidad and Tobago turnaround in the second leg?
Well, I guess there's a puncher's hope back in Trinidad and Tobago.
Who's doing the punching?
The ghosts of Cuba. American fans will always remember, October 10th, 2017.
Listen, we can't cling to that for much longer, in all honesty. And listen, here's the thing. First of all, the positives from last night. The positives about Trinidad and Tobago football, Denzel Smith. The goalkeeper for Trinidad and Tobago, earning his 5th cap, I thought looked solid, looked calm, looked composed. And maybe I'm a little bit biased as a former goalkeeper myself, but I loved everything I saw from him in 90 minutes. In terms of what next for Trinidad and Tobago football, we have been asking this question seemingly since Stephen Hart was relieved of his duties back in 2016, 2017, and our football continued to spiral down. We are being run by a FIFA-appointed normalization committee and have been since early 2020. And our football has just regressed consistently and continually. The sooner we get out from under of this normalization committee, we can start having conversations about what next. Because as of right now, there is simply nothing next. We are treading water, hoping to get to that point. I'm okay saying this. I might get us all in a little bit of trouble, but Lord knows everybody in CONCACAF football is already upset with me, so just add that to the cake. But the sooner that can happen, the sooner at least we can have meaningful conversations, because otherwise all the criticism is for absolutely nothing.
So you're saying they're not coming back then?
So I'm saying that I have had enough at this point, and honestly, just as a fan, I am totally exasperated.
Oh.
All right, Kasey, Shaka doesn't seem very confident. What do you want to see different from this U.S. team in the second leg down in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, I'd love to see the intensity of the final 20 minutes from the start of the game. I think also there's a point, too, where you're not going to go in and be ultra aggressive from the first go. You still have to weigh it a little bit because you are, winning 3-0, and you don't want to put yourself under undue pressure by doing something, silly in the first 20, 25 minutes. But I still think this U.S. team doesn't have a lot to fear, particularly on the counterattack. Keep your balance, but be more aggressive in the attacking third. Take players on. Ollie made the point very, very well. Take players on, combine, attack, because I think that's where the U.S. has had their most strength in games like this. Still understand that, conceding a goal early can put you under some undue pressure, but don't be as conservative as they were in that first half.
All right,
and
there
I think
he is, Kasey
if
Keller.
you look at Shaka, I think Shaka needs to find the next Dwight York, Russell Latapy, Shaka Hislop. I think the list goes on. I think right now they're just at a little bit of a drought of talent.
Wow. That's as positive a spin as you can,
Yes.
as anybody can. Well,
Yeah.
you said it better than me, Kasey.
Maybe you should be running the federation, Kasey.
Oh, man, yes.
They don't make them like they used to.
You're
That's what
far
I'm saying
nicer
right
than
now,
I am,
down
Kasey.
in
I'll say
Trinidad.